The story begins with the MMORPG Cross Reverie, where Sakamoto Takuma boasted an overwhelming strength that was enough for him to be called the Demon King by the other players. One day, he gets summoned to another world because of his appearance in the game. There are two people who insist, "I am the real summon master." Takuma gets slave-turning magic used for summoned beasts casted on him by the girls, however. The peculiar ability of his ring magic reflection got activated. Then the ones that were turned into slaves were the girls. Their names were Shara and Rem. It was a shocking turn of events for the girls since they wanted a summoned beast but got turned into slaves themselves, so they chose to get to the town first to get rid of those slave collars. On their way, as they introduced themselves, Diablo introduced himself as a demon lord of another world. Then they get to the inn where they are staying and the girls are short on cash, so because of that, 3 of them end up sharing the same room. But there comes the leader of the Mage Association, whose name is Celestine, an important character in the game who maintains a protection barrier for the town. She came by to offer proper security for Rem for some reason, but she declined. It wasn't the first time she came to offer her protection, but Rem always rejected her offer, so Diablo wanted to get into their conversation but was interrupted by her lackey. He seemed to be looking down on demi-human, but since Rem wouldn't accept her offer, she then left. Diablo wanted to know the reason for all this, but Rem seemed to want to keep it a secret. Then Diablo had no choice but to force it out of her. He took her into the room and pushed her down. Even then she was persisting to keep it a secret, so Diablo just casually blew in her ear and that just turned her on, you know what I mean. So she gave up and wanted to tell this secret to someone, but the one who knows always runs away from her, so she was afraid Diablo would leave her. Nonetheless, she revealed her secret. She carried the soul of the Demon Lord Krebskulm. The Demon Lord Krebskulm was the most powerful demon lord in the game, so it was natural that others would be afraid of her, and if she died, the Demon Lord would be released. So Celestine offered security to protect her. She thought Diablo would run away, but on the contrary, he promises her to find a way to separate her from the Demon Lord, which made her cry out of happiness. Then, late at night, while Diablo was trying to process everything, a member of the Mage Association came to find trouble with him again. And he threw an alcohol bottle at him and summoned a level 30 salamander to kill him. Diablo is a level 150 demon lord, so it only took one spell to dispel his summon, so the jerk fled, and Diablo didn't want any trouble, so he let him go. But the problem began early in the morning because he was an introvert, and now he was sleeping with 2 beautiful girls, and seeing them. His hands betrayed him and he began touching their boobs as they awoke from their touch. Shara was shy, and Rem made him see stars in the morning with her slap. After that, they went to the guild to get registered as official adventurers to earn a living, so the receptionist took a mirror to assess their level. Shara got to level 30, but when Diablo touched it, everything turned pale, and the guild leader, Sylvie, came running to see what was wrong. The guild mirror failed to assess his level, which means Diablo is stronger than her, which means she can't accept a person like. But Diablo doesn't mind taking orders from her as long as he gets his money. So Sylvie assigned them the task of killing a serpent in the woods, but even she seemed to have doubts about the task, so our trio accepted it because they have Diablo. They traveled to the man-eating forest only to discover that they were being watched by elves hiding in the woods. They wanted to take Shara because she is the princess of the elf kingdom, so it all adds up to the fact that this was all a setup from the start. Diablo was thought to be a slave trader by those elves after he put his enslaved collar on Shara and the other girl. Shara, on the other hand, was adamantly opposed to returning because she desired to live her life on her own terms. But her opinion was irrelevant to them because they attempted to harm Diablo with those playful toys. But talking a way out was futile. And yet still Diablo showed mercy on them and cast a massive freeze spell that terrified them, and the one behind all of this was also the same guy who was getting in trouble with Diablo. Even so, this time Diablo still let him get away. And soon the truth was revealed. Shara was a princess who was hiding because her own brother wanted to have a child with her. Then as soon as Celestine heard about his man troubling Diablo, she kicked him out of the Mage Association, and as an apology, she gave them a job with a higher pay. But the job was just a delivery of goods, and yet the pay was as high as a killing quest. Rem thought it was a little shady, but they were still broke, so Diablo and Shara chose to deliver these goods, but as they left the guild, Emil stopped them to save Rem and Shara from Diablo. Honestly, there were rumors that a demon had enslaved 2 hot girls, so Emil came to save them. He's the type of man who has a hero complex, but he was crushed as a fly by Diablo, so to avoid further misunderstanding, Shera explains the situation and then he leaves them alone. So Shera and Diablo hit the road for their delivery job, and in the meantime, Celestine came to visit Rem again to apologize for the trouble they had to go through because of her men. Anyway, aside from them, Diablo and Shera reached their destination to deliver the goods only to find that the knights were preparing to defend against a large-scale attack of 100 fallen ones. They were considered a huge boss of the level, and 100 of them at once is something that those low-level knights can't handle. Diablo noticed the knights were scared yet they wanted to stay to protect the town, so he took it upon himself to save them from fallen. As all the fallen came to invade the human land, Diablo took care of them one by one, leaving only their numbers at barely 30. Seeing this, the commander came forward to blow away the obstacle, which was Diablo. Away from that, when Rem and Celestine were having a conversation, there came the man who was kicked out of association by Celestine for trying to harm Rem, Shera, and Diablo. He lost his mental health level and used a dagger to turn into a fallen angel himself. So Rem immediately took Celestine away because if anything happened to her, the protection barrier of town would get down, giving the fallen a great chance for an all-out attack. Since Rem wasn't able to handle that thing, Emile came back to save them from the fallen. Then screen shift again to Diablo fighting with the fallen one's commander Edelgard, but none of her attacks were able to even put a scratch on Diablo. So she chose to use her ultimate move that required the caster's HP to convert it into damage. And even with that, Diablo was all fit and fine, he didn't want to hurt them, but the word came in that Rem and Celestine were attacked by a fallen. So to wrap things up, Diablo blew them away in a single shot, yet somehow Edelgard survived, but now she was harmless, so Diablo used teleport to quickly get to Rem and Celestine. The fallen did a number on Emile that fell the moment he saw Diablo, but luckily his life was still out of danger. For hurting Rem, Diablo got angry and sealed his soul in a void for all eternity. Everything ended and those who lost their lives in it were properly mourned, then holding those feelings of loss, the town people again got back to their daily lives, and for Diablo, he was still resting after using tons of MP, so to cheer him up, Shera wore a pervy outfit that Sylvie gave her, and it made Rem jealous, so she also became clingy to Diablo. So then Sylvie came to disturb them again with the news that the Elf Kingdom issued a warning to hand over Princess Shera to them in 10 days or they would wage an all-out war. And to add even more trouble, her brother has even put up a hefty bounty on her head. Diablo couldn't take it and decided to meet the Lord of Riveria. He was a war hero that found himself in the front line against the Demon Lord, so the vibes coming from him were a little scary. Diablo then swallowed his fear and told him that he would like to find a new way to resolve things since Shera didn't want to return to the Elf Empire. It was her own wish, so the Lord had no other option but to allow him to resolve things on his own in this matter. But there was another thing. The kingdom had sent a high-ranking knight to assist him. Her name is Alicia. She was a knight yet she was respectful toward a demon lord such as Diablo, but then the bounty hunter swapped away Shera and Diablo was on the chase, and everyone thought that he would save her. But the one who saved Shera was Emile. He can smell girls who are danger, getting creepy level maxed out. Anyway, the 11 Kingdom thinks that Diablo has enslaved Shera. So they got a slave trader to get rid of those enslavement collars as soon as possible from Shera and Rem. A trade secret, so she won't tell just anyone other than them. So Alicia got out of this mess as well as Rem because she wasn't feeling up for the task. So then Thanos made some special preparations for them to conduct the ritual to free Shera from the collar. For that, all Diablo had to do was find her body part where her magic was most concentrated, but the aroma of that moment was still, like you know. And her scream was heard even by Rem and Alicia outside of the tent. And even after that much effort they were still unsuccessful of removing the collar because it's engraved in them with such a power magic of Diablo. While they were at it, Shera's brother Kira found them at the inn. He came there to try to convince Shera to return to their kingdom. He came in person to change Shera's mind, but her answer was still a no, so he wanted to come by again next morning. But Shera was still not going to leave. It was a final decision that no one could change, but her brother was a no-good jerk who was up to something. So what is it that Kiras is up to get Shera to find out in the next video for that? Subscribe to the channel to get the latest update on the recaps.